And
recording in progress.
To everybody here this afternoon. We have got Francois on the Zoom, and we have got Councillor Gillette joining us at some stage, but at this stage he'll just have to join us as he arrives. So what we're starting off with today is our final placement on council. So with that, we'd like to welcome our newly elected Northern Ward Councillor, Patrick Phelps, to the council today. And while Patrick had a very concisive one, he comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and work-life experiences that will serve him well at the table. There is a bit of a catch-up to be done around the workshops we have covered to date, but I don't think you'll have a problem getting up to speed with that. And we'll be ensuring that all the resources that have been provided to us are provided to you also as we go. To all the candidates who stood in the Northern Ward election, I thank you for your passion towards serving your communities in our region. It is an important role and it can be difficult at times, but when people stand for the betterment of our people and region, we can't fault that approach. So Patrick, I would like you to come, first off, Simon's going to do a report and then we'll go up. Sorry, jump in the boat.
Obviously, this process has to be formalised. So there's a report to confirm the process and to award the Northern Ward nomination. So I take the report as read and make recommendations that the report be received and the elected member publicly makes the declaration.
So can I have somebody please move and second that the report be received and that Patrick Phelps publicly makes this declaration? Thank you, Councillors Casson and Baird. Right.
No, we're going to go
over the one flag. This is going to get serious and official. Right. So, Patrick, I will ask you to read this. This is your declaration, which we're going to Councillor.
Feel a lot more in here right now. I, Patrick Sean Phelps, declare that I faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Western District powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a councillor of the Western District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information Meetings Act 1987 and any other act dated at the 23rd day of February 2023.
Right, if you would like to put your signature on there. There's this one. And I'll sign that, and then I'll get you to sign this one as well. And then this one here is the official council.
No,
that's what you council. Thank you very much. So would you want to put yours on it?
man.
And with that, you have to have some of these for us. Shoes off photo with three of you. I think she's actually not really welcome.
Thank you very much. Possible speeches, no?
Oh yes, sorry, yes. And then you can actually just say a few words. Just do some.
I'll just thank possibly in this room, but thanks everyone that voted for me, and I look forward to working with everyone in this room, with everyone else in the community. yeah, it should be a good 2 or 3 years and see how it goes. Yes.
I'll keep those buttoned up. Okay. Yeah. You know I do. We've got a new one though, don't we? Apologies for a bit of butchering in case it happens. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa paunami te moana, hei hora hei mā tātou, I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, haumi e hui e, tāriki e.
Thank you. Right, so we'll move on into the meeting now, and apologies, we don't have any. We're just at this stage waiting for Councillor Gillette to join us.
Through the chair, just apologies for that.
Yep, thank you. So moving on to, as we've got no apologies, we won't have anything to move there, so we'll move on to the declarations of interest, which is here. If anybody wants that circulated, actually that can be passed on down so that Councillor Phelps can write anything, that'll come down if you want to check that and make sure it's all accurate, everybody else.
Just noting a couple of additions I've made.
Thank you. Councillor Casson. It is advantageous to check it every now and again routinely just to ensure that information is accurate and has not changed in the interim. Urgent items on the agenda, not on the agenda, we have nothing there. So with that, we'll move on to the minutes of meetings. So the minutes of the previous meeting were circulated separately via Teams, and everybody has had access in time to read those, which is the ordinary council meeting on the 8th of December and the extraordinary council meeting minutes on the 15th of December. Can I please have a move and a seconder for acceptance of the minutes, please? Councillor Baird, Councillor Burden, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. And resolved that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 8th of December 2022 and the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 15th of December 2022 be confirmed as a true and accurate record of the meeting. I also approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of 8th December and the extraordinary council meeting minutes of the 15th of December. We have committee minutes to be received. We have the Hokitika Wastewater Treatment Plant Project Oversight Subcommittee meeting minutes of the 14th of December 2022. Can I have a mover and a seconder that we resolve that the committee minutes of the Wastewater Treatment Plant Oversight Subcommittee be received, please?
Yep.
Councillor Casson? And Councillor Neal, thank you very much. Councillor Gillette has joined us this afternoon. He is on a rather serious Mammoth bike ride tour in the North Island.
Just checking, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Stephen.
Sorry about that delay, had a technical issue here, but I'm all on board.
Thank you. Right, so moving on, we're on to action list 7, Stephen, now, which is the action list presented by the Chief Executive, Simon Bastian, please.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, and good afternoon, councillors, and good afternoon, new councillor. Just for the new councillors standing, every council meeting we have an updated action list from previous council meetings. They get carried forward and updated accordingly, and any actions that are completed are removed. We have 2 action list items on the action list now. It's the shortest action list I've had for quite some time, so I like it this way. The first one is the Waitara Building County Building business case. We are almost ready to have our first workshop on this on Monday. Myself and Scott Baxendale have been working with one of partners in terms of formulating a review of both this building, Waitara building, and the potential option of government house / city house. So that'll be worked through with councillors on Monday. As a first stage, there's quite a few number of pages to go through. Just to confirm to councillors, and it'll be touched again on Monday, that I have received some options from Using Heritage in terms of the type of options we could consider as potential leases or owners or partners within that building. The next action is to do with the race course, and it's basically keeping council updated in terms of progress with that project. As you recall, you had a significant workshop a few weeks back with Josephson Associates and O'Connor Partners. We're currently going through the master plan and community engagement concept development. So we have a deliverable as part of the agreement, which is targeting a delivery plan for 27th of April 2023. And we are asking Josephson Associates and O'Connor Partners to come back to council in March to give an update in terms of where we are with that program. So just rest assured that that process has been done with full diligence. Any questions on either of those topics from councillors?
Yes.
Not actually with the action list, but the last meeting was the 8th of December, and I just wonder if we could look in the future for bringing forward a meeting in earlier, well, end of January or early February, because 3 months is a bit long between drinks.
Just to through your worship, obviously that was completed as part of the inaugural meeting, and we made a recommendation that January was removed, mainly because the amount of staff available to actually formulate reports, etc., would have been quite onerous. Doesn't say it couldn't happen, but it would have been quite a streamlined agenda. It wouldn't be a full comprehensive agenda. And the other thing that we have underway at the moment was the amount of information we're still developing for our government department processes, particularly around 3 audits. So staff time and availability. It's hence the reason we deferred it, requested it be not put on the calendar for January.
Yeah, through your worship, I do understand that, but it's still 3 months between meetings, which just seems a very long time.
Just through worship, we have proposed that the December meeting be deferred an extra week this year, because we were too early in December. I think it was the 8th of December. So this time it will be not the week of Christmas, but prior week to that. So the gap will be shorter.
And so the February meeting will maybe be earlier.
As a compromise, we could bring February meeting forward by our week. Bearing in mind also that we may not have financials available if we would have to bring it forward. That's the only challenge.
I think perhaps as a middle road that we perhaps assess this towards the end of the year and see what is happening and what urgent needs are, and then formulate those dates through that time around.
Yes, that's good.
What we're looking at,
because the calendar or the agenda might be like.
No, you won't know till we get there. You happy with that? Yep. Okay. Thank you, Simon. Right, can I please have somebody move and second, and that we resolve that the updated action list be received, any updates be recorded, which there haven't been any. Councillor Neal, Councillor Burden, thank you very much. All in favour to that? Carried. Thank you. Just before we get on to the presentations, I would like to make a special note, an acknowledgement and thank you to those members of staff who have volunteered to travel to the North Island to assist civil defence and a massive management and all that entails of the recent weather event up there. We all know how catastrophic it's been. The lives of those living there impacted by the event will never be the same again. When you lose everything in such a devastating and horrifying manner, you also lose where you are in life, where you belong in life. So it's the scale of the traumaticness of it is severe. The impact on these people is going to be lifelong. And the fact that we've had staff up there working with them, working with the civil defence team is commendable. They were some of the first to put their hands up and get up there. They've helped to make a difference. I've spoken to Sarah, who's returned to the fold this week, and the insight and knowledge that she's gained we'll be able to harness and utilise, as will the others when Te Araha and her husband Don and Earl and Angus return. There's an immense amount of information, concepts, management plans, tools that we can gain for this ourselves, because, as I've said before, we're only one weather event away from the same situation here. And if we don't harness what they've witnessed and worked in, we'd be failing in our duty. But to that end, I would like to put on record that we as council thank them for their dedication to their roles and their focus on getting into these communities and helping where they can at such a harrowing time, because I also respect that they would have seen some things and dealt with people that would have been very, very hard. So if we can please record our thanks to the staff. Thank you. So moving on from that, we move straight into presentations. And first off, we have the Okarito Dark Sky community, but I will let Councillor Casson introduce them to us. And he will also be showing support, offering support to them as they go through the presentation.
Thank you, Helen. I'm quite proud as a Southern Ward Councillor for us to introduce a couple of people here to have a talk today. This is the first presentation of its type for this triennium, where a community group's bringing an idea they've got to the council table to engage council support and look to see what we can achieve together in the future on something. So Tash and Pam are here on behalf of a committee of 6 or 7 locals from down and around the area to present to us on the idea of the Okarito Dark Sky community. Thanks to the paper for covering it when it slipped off the December agenda. So it's great to have that exposure for it and for them to gain some feedback from people on things then. So I will welcome Tash and Pam formally. They'll come up and answer some questions after Suze plays a video. It's very high tech today. A voiceover video has been recorded by another member of the committee to save these two just for question time. So I'll hand over to Suze.
It's very quiet, the voiceover, so if everybody could keep very quiet and still so that we can get the maximum out of it.
Okarito is surrounded by Taiputini National Park, the Tasman Sea, and the Okarito Lagoon and waterways. It's the perfect place to be New Zealand's first dark sky community. The International Dark Sky Places program offers 5 different types of designations, including communities, dark sky parks, dark sky reserves, dark sky sanctuaries, and urban night sky places. Within New Zealand, we have 2 reserves. We have the Dark Sky Reserve at Tekapo, the largest in the world. We have the newest Dark Sky Reserve in New Zealand, Wairarapa. We have a Dark Sky Park located in the Nelson Tasman region, and 2 sanctuaries, Stewart Island and Aotea Great Barrier Island. New Zealand is a nation in process to become the world's first internationally recognized dark sky nation. So why protect Okarito's dark skies? A dark sky is a natural resource that is slipping away from the country and indeed from the planet. It's the same as the clean air that we breathe, the clean water that we drink. A benefit to protecting the dark sky community in Okarito would be to learn and understand the significance of the night sky from our ancestors by seeing the sky the same way that they did. But there's much more than that. Improper lighting can negatively affect our environment and impact our quality of life. This is not just a New Zealand issue, but this is a global issue causing harm all over the world. One of the impacts is on plants. Exposed to unnatural light, leaves grow long and weaken. Plants exposed to artificial light at night become less productive. Another impact on insects is with moths being attracted to artificial light. They're often killed, and this leads to a large decline in populations. This in turn leads to an impact on our wildlife and our birds. All animals, including humans, have a natural circadian rhythm. This becomes confused by artificial lighting. Shoreline life can be adversely affected, and this can have impacts all the way up the food chain. As mentioned, artificial light at night will lure moths to the lights and ultimately their death. Some of these moths are an important food source for whitebait and other native species. Humans, of course, are also included in having their disruption to circadian rhythms. Our minds and bodies have this natural rhythm. It increases, it winds up as the sun comes up, and as the sun goes down, we naturally quieten. But when we're exposed to bright LED lights and blue light, it's just like the sun coming up. The American Medical Association has declared light pollution a human health risk, and there are risks that have been associated with leukemia and other hormonally driven cancers. Our eyes are also impacted by too much nighttime light, and studies have shown that we can have a marked decline in the protective layers of our eyes from being exposed to excessive lighting at night. So why do we light up our night skies? Often it's because of fears of safety. We tend to think that lighting up our night skies is going to make us feel safer. In fact, many studies have been shown that this is not the case and that we can do it differently. Motion sensors are useful and they can be directed to only light up areas that are required. And you can also use a warmer light, and that will minimize the detrimental effects. The city of Madrid, Spain, reduced their outdoor lighting by 50% and saw no increase in crime. Basically, we have some principles of responsible lighting. Light should be useful. It should be directed only to where it is needed. It should be off when it is not needed. The colors should be warmer tones like amber, not blue light. Lighting should not be any brighter than necessary. So Okarito could be the first dark sky community in New Zealand. Some of the benefits of being recognized of a dark sky community would be international recognition, some wonderful tourism benefits that actually align with Okarito's ethos, protecting our endemic and native species, plants, insects, and birds, as well as aquatic life. It fits in with our conservation goals as a community with zero introduced predators, jobs for nature work, and it's good for our community health and well-being. We can also help to future-proof and protect our skies for the next generation and provide education resources for kids, for families, for visitors, both domestic and international. Being a dark sky community aligns with New Zealand's recognition and celebration of Matariki, the night sky and the stars. We already have support from Tirunanga o Makawhio and the Okarito Community Association. We do already have some ideas for events, a Matariki Festival to help strengthen this public holiday and its recognition within the Okarito community, perhaps a night sky photography competition. Our heritage buildings, the Okarito Wharf and Donovan's Store, are brilliant buildings to be lit up by a night sky tourism, and also perhaps a potential collaboration with a new Punama pathway to enhance cultural and ancestral Maori legends and the history of the skies. Dark skies have been in the press a fair bit lately over the past year. The most recent one that we've seen, other than Wairarapa, is addressing New Zealand as a dark sky nation. This was in National Geographic in November 2022 in the travel section with the title, "What's a Dark Sky Nation and Why Does New Zealand Want to Become One?" New Zealand is aiming to become certified as a dark sky nation by the International Dark Sky Association and would be the first nation in the world to do so. So just a few of the examples of the dark skies and the stars and that you can see, the activities that you can do with telescopes and how you can help point out the amazing different systems in the sky that are available to us with the naked eye. So some of the requirements for becoming a certified dark sky community would include having a comprehensive lighting policy. We need to shield all lighting fixtures over 1,000 initial lamp lumens. We need to have a limit on the emission of short wavelength light. We would also need to have a restriction on the total amount of unshielded lighting and a policy to address overlighting, such as lumens per net acre. We would need regulations of new installations of publicly owned outdoor lighting and restrictions on the installation and operation of illuminated signs. We're very fortunate in Okarito is that we already have a dark sky community. We don't have an issue with street lights or having to change them. So these are some things that we actually could implement before having to undo policies. We need to have a community commitment to dark skies and quality lighting. So we already have our community association on board, and we're also looking for wider communities to support this application. So we're looking for broad support for dark skies from a range of community organizations, and we have our commitment from the community to dark skies and education. We'd also need to have success in light pollution control and a sky brightness measurement program we need to establish and maintain. Once established, the community must also erect and maintain appropriate signage indicating the International Dark Sky Community designation. Dark Sky New Zealand are able to assist us. There is an organization online already, and they are able to help in measuring the level of darkness and night sky brightness in our area. They can also help us obtain our dark sky accreditation and provide astronomy outreach to our community and provide assistance with building a group of dark sky ambassadors for the area. So next we were seeking support from Development West Coast, Westland District Council, Glacier Country Tourism Group, and Forest and Bird. We have already been asked to present at Glacier Country Tourism Group and Forest and Bird. Next steps would be to complete an intent to apply. It's a pre-application, and then research for funding support if we feel that we need to. This is not a short process. The application is going to take 1 to 2 years. We're going to aim to apply by the first quarter, maybe early second quarter of 2023. And we'll aim to complete and launch at Matariki 2024 or 2025. Okarito is a special place, and this is an opportunity for us to protect our night skies, our plants, our birds, our shoreline species, and our own health from future light pollution. And this can be achieved by becoming a part of the International Dark Sky Project and keeping these night skies protected for generations into the future. We were approached from Dark Sky Waiheke with this beautiful quote: "Okarito is gorgeous and a hugely ecologically important area. It's very advantageous to you to not have to retrofit infrastructure that hasn't been rolled out yet unnecessarily. You have a taonga that needs to be preserved. Dark skies are sought by high-value Northern Hemisphere tourists as well as domestic. However, so many Kiwis don't realize just how fortunate we are. So long we've taken our dark skies for granted. Protect and preserve." You can find out more about International Dark Sky Association at www.darksky.org. And we're going to be available to take some questions from you for the next few minutes. And we're very happy to answer any questions via email. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to our Dark Sky presentation for the Okarito community.
Welcome, ladies. So, question time. Does anybody have any questions? Jane, can
I have any comments. Firstly, Alex, I think it's amazing. I think it's so exciting. I was on the Okarito Community Association many, many years ago, and a developer wanted to develop, and he was like, "I can put in a sewage system and I can have street lighting all down the streets for you. How wonderful." And we were horrified. And it was like, you've totally misled us. Yeah, I think Okarito is a perfect place for them. Well done. I was out at Mahinapua just about a week ago, and it's similar, and the skies are amazing, and the comments from everyone there are just, wow. So I think it's fantastic.
I agree with Councillor Neil. I mean, Okariko is a special place on its own and is unique on its own, but with what you capture with the night sky as well, let's protect it, let's harness what we've got. I mean, I enjoy the night skies here, but down there it's even more special. You get the moon, you get the sea, you get this, the whole mix, it's perfect. So well done on your progress so far. Yes.
So, just a question regarding council processes, obviously, building consents, district plans, etc. At the moment, you could put a building up and have whatever lights you like outside. So to lock it in as a future outcome, have you talked to anyone in terms of a submission by the district plan, or is that too early?
Yeah, I think we're still in the early stages. We just kind of went going to sort all the technical difficulties out today. It's more of a we're just after some support, so not a commitment from you or from council to say, yeah, we're going to, because obviously there's going to be some regulations needed and waiting. Good to have another meeting with appropriate people about that.
Right.
How we go about that.
I'm just highlighting the urgency, and Paul knows it probably better than I do. The submissions are coming, have been finished for the district plan review. And where council is, or the joint committee is about to assess what those submissions actually are. There's going to be another round of local submission. So you need to make sure that there's that your voice is heard. Because once it's in the district plan, it's locked in for at least 10 years. So it's probably even just sharing this with some of the planners of the district plan might help.
There's a few things, and then Pam said that we're already in line with what we need, but there's a few things that
a lot of the language in the plan addresses what International Dark Sky requires for lighting. So we're pretty close, I think.
I just think it would make a special reference to this as an opportunity to make it highlighted as part of it, because once it comes to a planner who's never seen this before, they could give a consent tomorrow for a building consent, for example, and they go ahead and build and you can't stop them.
Just in terms of the community support, just what percentage would that be at Okariko?
We didn't take a vote. We've mentioned it at several of our community meetings, and people have had questions, but we haven't voted on it. We've been given verbal consent to proceed through the process.
Yeah.
I'd say everyone's very supportive. They were just worried about Okariko having things that they needed to do and how it's going to be enforced.
Yeah. Was any sort of against it at all?
I don't think anyone's against the concept. I think we're just thinking of how it's to be enforced and how it works.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Have anyone, I think Great Barrier Islands, for example, got dark skies, went out for its dark skies, I don't know if it's got the same status or not, but other districts or parts of the country, are there any places where there would be comparable to what you want in terms of might already exist in other district plans? Would we look at the plans, for instance, or not?
Yes, I think we're going to look at the wider program, and they changed a few things in the there's quite a few. There's so much support. I think that if we bring any of the councils
Just to go on the end of that, Patrick, other members of the committee have spoken to the likes of Tikapo and the likes in terms of they've got a really strict, all their lighting schemes have those dishes on them. They've been doing it for 10 years sort of thing. So there's heaps of examples that we're very supportive of sharing that stuff here. It's follow up process as opposed to starting the process from scratch.
Thank you. Ngāti Mahaki had no hesitation in supporting this proposal. It's just such a good fit. for Kareto. You probably couldn't think of a better location for it, to be honest. And with the the likes of the nighttime Kiwi tours and all these things, it just really fits so well together. And also noting for the council that Kareto was next in line for Tohu Whenua status, and so that's another fillip for the town, and that's likely to happen within the next 6 months. So, yeah, so it's just really it all rounds out as a really good fit for that village.
Thank you very much for that. That's excellent. Does anybody have anything else for that opening for ladies? So, thank you very much. So as far as working with them, if you girls make contact with council, with Simon, or Simon can put you in link with.
On your behalf, if you're okay, I'll reach out to the district plan team.
Please.
Give you a bit of a hand in this.
Yeah. So it becomes a forward path rather than have some in box that's sort of slow or confuse what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. It's quite impressive.
Thank you all.
It's quite exciting.
Thank you. Good luck.
So following that fantastic presentation, it's quite stunning, isn't it? Can I have someone please move and second? We accept the report and resolve that the presentation be received. Please, Councillor Neal, Councillor Baird, thank you very much. All in favour of that? Thank you. So that's carried. Next, we go on to the presentation by Westland Holdings. So, welcome. Welcome. Good to see you back. So we will throw it straight over to you.
Good afternoon, councillors, council staff. Thank you for having us along to speak to you today. So we have two items that we'll cover. The first is the 6-month results up to the 31st of December, particularly financial results, and some commentary around that. And secondly, we'll present the draft statement of intent for the period starting 1st of July 2023. So hopefully you've seen those documents and had a chance to look through them. So the presentation starts with the results of the last 6 months. Susie, if you could just quickly go through those first couple of pages. So the first page is it's got the vision and mission. Second page is our strategic priorities, 22 to 25, because it's the 22-23 years, so that's why it's worded that way. And then we've got the 6-month update, so just some of the things that we have achieved for this period so far. So we've got CCOs who have good strategic plans, working strategic plans in place, good focus on communication with the new council, so hopefully we'll strengthen that as we go along. And we'll put there the further steps towards independence governance of Destination Westland, because we had all 3 directors of Western Holdings as directors of Destination Westland. We're now down to just Chris. So that will be during this year. The goal is to have 3 independent directors on Western Holdings who are not on Destination Westland. So we've done that slowly to ensure that the momentum that we've gained through the strategic planning process isn't lost by doing all 3 at once. So we're working through that. We've got the LGFA funding in place now for the CCOs to reduce interest costs, and obviously we focus always on financial performance. So the next page has the consolidated results for the 6 months to 31 December for the group. So this is the West Roads and Destination Westland consolidated to become the Western Holdings financial results. So I'll stop for a second to see if anyone's got any queries on that. Not a fantastic year so far, but we'll get to that. We'll get to the detail of the 2 CCOs. So we'll start with Westroads.
So Westroads, the revenue is down on budget by 1.2 at this stage, so about half a year. And that's due to several factors, being the 4 months there of the Western District Council utility contract was making a lot of money. 2 performing bad jobs, and the Western branch failed to secure some of the council utility construction contracts, meaning that there was a bit of plant and people underutilised. But they are telling us that looking forward, there's good work ahead with good margins. So hopefully, and this is in my time with Westroads, I see this quite a bit. The first half of the year is not so great. Second, when we make start, touch wood. You see that, but it didn't go so good. And on that following page, Susie, you'll see that the results are there. As I said, that profit's down on budget. It's 379k, but yeah, hopefully we'll make it up the rest of the year. Any questions around Westroads?
What was the 2-point performance?
Can I just ask a question? It's like a full year budget.
No, 6 months, March to December.
Yeah.
That was Johnson and Christchurch, wasn't it?
Not too sure. It was. It seems to be. Yeah, there was a couple of jobs in Christchurch.
Yeah.
And I think there was some issues with staffing as well. The changeover of contract manager. Yeah.
Councillor Green, have you got any questions at this stage?
Not at this stage.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you, Paswan.
So we'll move on to the next page for Susie, please.
Cool. So Destination Westland, Wild Foods is progressing well. Ticket sales are ahead again of the previous time around. Obviously, we didn't have last year, but the year before, so we're well ahead of where we were then. So touch with the weather's good because it will give us a decent kick along if it is. So we're crossing our fingers for that. Peter de Goldie is our new director. First meeting this morning. Already adding lots of value with his experience and knowledge. I think he's going to be an absolute asset to the business, so really cool to get him involved. Pensioner housing project is now well advanced and we're still on track to finish those units before the end of the financial year, which is exciting. So you've been passed, you'll see we've advanced them really well. Increase in revenue from the aviation sector still hasn't quite hit yet, but from Glacier Country, we hit January of pre-COVID times, so that's outstanding. So we had 29 days out there, and that's the best we've had for a very long time in January. So really good stuff. Yes, the weather played its part. We looked upon well with the weather, but it's very cool to see that place humming.
Is that also in part due to the lack of walking access?
I think that's probably contributing to it, but I think the main factors are tourism's back and the weather. But yeah, there's a long.
Because the feedback from a lot of the businesses there is that they're ahead of what they were pre-COVID times with throughput of people flying. But I think you're right, because that has been a comment from a lot of the operators that without having that walking or that ease of access, the optimum of flying is right there. So, and the following months, January is not quite as good, but pretty much up there still, isn't it?
January's just as good.
Yeah.
And probably better than this.
Yeah.
And it's continuing into February, so it's pretty exciting. We're seeing it much activity back down there, and as I said, we didn't allow a lot of revenue in our budget for that because we didn't know it was going to happen, so it was very useful for us. So a lot of that revenue will start flowing through in the next month or two, which is really good. And yeah, we are behind our budget.
Chris, if I could just come in there, sorry, Paul has a question for you.
Sorry, it wasn't a question. It was just a comment about the great summer that the heliports had of franchise to Glacier Guides is reflective of that, which is pretty amazing from where it was. His business was basically on its knees with COVID, and it's bounced back to so.
Yeah, cool. So we are behind budget, predominantly driven out of, there's actually 3 factors. The main factor is the prepaid costs for Wild Foods. We've spent over 90,000 already in pre-costs, so we'll obviously get a good return on that when people come along. We're also facing, like any business, increased working capital costs in regards to diesel for the pole and all those sorts of things. So there's been a lift in that and wage pressure. So that's also driven some of that. So I think we're actually faring very well, and we will be in profit by the end of the year. Quite positive with that. So, that's there. So I'll just take some questions.
Any questions on that so far?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Just curious about the new pensioner housing development. There's no business case that I've seen revolving around that housing build and the revenue from it. I'm just interested to see if it's a cash positive or negative project.
It is a cash positive that we are returning, and I think there is. We presented that in the last council meeting. So, someone is that around.
We'll have to review and find that for you, Steve.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it wasn't approved here, but yes, absolutely. We profit for social was the goal. So we're not looking to get 20% return. We are in that sort of 4 to 5% return mark. So with interest rates, fortunately with LGPA, we're somewhere there, but we'll contribute to our revenue positive.
Yeah, so I just note the existing housing stock, the rentals are sort of 140-ish or more per week. And I'm just wondering how the rent has been struck with new units in comparison.
We are working towards market rental. We'll confirm that closer to the time, but that's what was agreed at council, so we're working towards that. And that's where we're at in that space, and obviously we'll help people with their government options and the master of that stuff. But that's where we're at.
Right, so that's a different type of user compared to the current tenant base.
I wouldn't have thought so. We're still obviously pension housing. Still, looking at the same rules as everybody else in that space. But obviously, as we said, all the new tenants that come through will work towards market rent.
Which is the council strategy.
Yeah, it's what we're working towards and delivering on what was asked of us.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry. Francois, do you have any questions at this stage?
No, nothing yet. Thanks.
Thank you. So,
through your worship, with the administrative expenses, the budget was 383, but the actual is 504. Is that just due to Wild Foods?
That's all of those three factors. So the salaries and wages sit in there as well. So there's wage appreciation, increased costs around that we're all facing, and yes, Wild Foods. Yeah. So that category is not as descriptive as it could be.
The total income was showing a deficit compared to last year when it was last year was difficult.
We're up on total. You're talking revenue, top line. So we're up from 14.13 versus 11.27. So it is up quite significantly on last year.
I'm looking at the deficit.
Surplus deficit.
You're talking about over the bottom, comprehensive income? Yeah. That is driven directly out of, we'll just discuss the administration cost side of things. We hold our management fees flat for the things that we manage, so we've carried a lot of those extra costs associated with managing those issues without passing that on to council. So that's what that direct impact is. Revenues are growing, and we're halfway, so the second half, once we get through Wild Foods, will actually be better. So I expect that to reverse itself by the end.
You see that a lot of that was quite up the Wild Foods under the administrative.
It's 94,000 we spent. So even if you include our management fees, we're still at 45 to 50. So you'd say we're actually break even if it wasn't there.
Okay, and that's the presentation. So this is looking back primarily, and so any questions on that 6-month period? In which case we'll move on then to look forward. Yeah.
Through worship. Yep. We asked yesterday what interest rates currently was. Just under 1 million, so basically 4 million. That's total people.
So just before we move on, just through the chair, the mantra of profit for social, is that directed by council or is it something? It's something that I'm just new. So it's something that we work through as a board and with our chief executive, and we engage the the team as well, the staff. And obviously we have presented that to council in the past and has been reasonably well accepted. So yeah, it's a bit of all of it. And just to follow, is there a way in your annual reporting or just reporting to delineate your things that you're obviously expecting to make money out of versus the nice fluffy stuff, whatever you want to call it, so you can see the extent to it? What is subsidising what is costing what? We need to compromise everything. So I'll take that away. It's good feedback and think about how we do it for you. And then just to follow on as well, the debt ratio, I think I mentioned yesterday, we're at 2.34 million debt, which I said yesterday, 1.6, and we're at 26% for our debt to asset ratio, so we're reasonably good shape. Debt to income, so also sort of, debt to annual revenue. Debt to annual revenue, that would be where annual revenues going. Yeah, it would be about, just working it out in my head. Hard to know where we're going to land at the end of the year, to be fair. Yeah, but debt's 2.3 million versus a potential revenue of kind of 3 million.
Any further questions on the report? Are you wanting to move on to the statement of intent now?
If we may.
So what I might do is split this into two, and that we move and accept the report.
Yes.
And then we'll repeat the same for the statement of intent, because they are really two separate entities. So if you're happy with that, can I have a movement of seconder, please, that we resolve to accept presentation from the Board of Western Highlands, please? Thank you, Councillor Davison, Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried, thank you. And so we'll move on to the statement of intent, please.
Okay, so the statement of intent is looking forward, and it is for 3 years, starting 1st of July 2023. But we do it every year, so every year we update it and move on another year. Obviously the budget figures for next year are more accurate, and the further out you get, the less accurate it can be over those time periods. A lot of what is in here is dictated by the Local Government Act, so we have to have it in here. But we note there is some repetition, and so this is a draft that you are able to approve, and then we put together a final version of this to present to Council for approval at your June meeting. So between now and June, changes can be made, either by us, because circumstances change, in which case we'll make sure you realise that when we present the last version, or by you, so by Council you can give us feedback to change it. And one of the suggestions is that we sort of make sure there's not as much duplication in some of the wording, particularly around the performance targets. So we will attend to that. So really, we're looking for any feedback or for you to approve the statement of intent at this point in time, knowing that there will be another version come in June.
Just on that, Joanne, for the sake of Francois and Stephen that went here yesterday for the workshop, we also discussed creating a letter of intent and a sort of a policy around certain factors. If you wouldn't mind just very briefly perhaps updating them on the background of that.
Yeah, so the thing with the statement of intent is it's very much a compliance document and dictated by the Local Government Act, and the performance targets in there are what audit will hold us to account over. So it's not a place that you put aspirational goals in, because then they'll go, well, you haven't met your goals. So it is quite specific in the way that it's worded and put together. When we have aspirational goals, so if there's things that Council want of us that aren't so measurable or as likely to be achievable, and you just say, we'd like to see you buy a widget factory, you don't want to put them in here. So the other tool that Council has is to give us a letter of expectation, and that has been done over the last several years, where you decide what those aspirational goals or desires would be of us, and they put in letter form, and they give us guidance about what you would like to see. So it's still a formal process, because we still have to report to you on those things that you wanted to see, but it doesn't become part of that audit process, which is right and proper. So one thing we did talk about also, particularly for the two councillors who weren't present yesterday was the issues around the sale and purchase of land and whether we should include that in statement of intent. We felt that that might get a little bit wordy and complicated. So we've been asked to draft a policy for the sale and purchase of land by the CCO. So we'll put some rules and guidance in place about how those processes would work going forward, and we'll have that to you probably for the April meeting, so prior to that finalised SOI.
Thank you for that, Joanne, that's brilliant. So you two got your heads around those aspects of it, because what the workshop yesterday took us through the nuts and bolts, and those were the sort of main drivers that we sort of picked out of that yesterday.
I do have a couple of queries, if I may. On page 3 of the SOI, I just wonder if you can expand on the comment that to optimise returns from each subsidiary as well as the value of each subsidiary within the operating parameters determined by the council. So how do we develop these operating parameters?
Sorry, can you tell me where it is again?
On the bottom of page 3 on your SOI, or page 36 in the agenda.
Under the objectives of the
company, yes. And which one was it?
Oh, yes, page 3.
Well, it looks like we jointly developed some sort of operating parameters. I just wanted to know, or could you expand on how that would work?
This is not intended for council to dictate how businesses would be operated at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's really around, so we've always viewed this to mean that it's around financial returns. So obviously by way of dividend, that there is a goal put in place and that is agreed between the parties based on the financial information that we have. And the value of each subsidiary, it's a financial measure, Councillor Kelly.
Okay. I was interested in the comment on page 9 of the SOI.
Just 2 seconds, sorry. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the right page so I know where we are.
Management specific activities.
It's under specific activities. There's just a paragraph there that's advice to WDC regarding potential CCO establishment, disestablishment, etc. So how do you see that particular bit of work being carried out?
Well, I would assume that's only if applicable, and at the moment there is no intention from Westland Holdings to establish, disestablish or develop any of the companies outside what they currently do.
But it's more so implying that should there be anything around that, then you engage with us and we discuss in full.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
The projected profit for the period is $300,000.
That's the dividend.
The dividend, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
And that's largely from Westroads.
That's right.
And going by the 6-month result, Westroads had projected a gross profit of 650,000, but in fact ended up with 260,000. So is the 300,000 as dividend realistic?
So remember, this is for the year ended 30 June 24, not 30 June 23. So this is looking forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. And so based on the information that Westroads has today about the contracts that they have in place, they have done a comprehensive budgeting process to come to those figures. So we believe that they have given us what is practical and achievable.
It just seemed like an overestimation.
Through the Chair, just to reflect on pre-COVID, if you recall, this dividend was $500,000.
Yes.
For several years. So it is, not, to me, not out of the realm of possibility personally.
So, I mean, they've given us this figure, and talked us through how they've got there. we don't run the business, so we have to rely on their board and their management in coming up with a budget that is practical and achievable based on the information they have.
Through your worship, as I say, somehow they seem to get the 6-month period and one not have reached budget, but they seem to pull it out. I don't want to put the cold wash on it, but that's what seems to happen. So I'm quite confident that they'll get that.
That's a suggestion.
Can I just clarify the dividend? It's never been 500, it's been a mix of both subvention and dividend. And that will just show the dividend now, it won't show the subvention.
I think it's got in the budget a subvention payment for the next year of 100,000, but that will very much depend on the losses for the other company and for council itself, what that can be.
Any other questions regarding the statement of intent?
One, if I may, the changes we discussed at the meeting yesterday have been made to the draft with one from us.
They haven't been at this stage because we already had it.
Yeah.
So, but they will be. So we have taken note of those changes, and they'll come back. And with any others that may come through, they'll come through that last version and the final version in June.
Okay. So we're adopting the document pending the
As
changes.
in draft form only?
Pending the changes to be made.
No, we accept the draft and then the changes will be made and we will be given another document to approve in full.
So we've noted the changes that have been requested to the draft before it comes to final.
So it's not subject to, it is as it is here with the changes to be made. But we will be reviewing that before we actually pass the accept in its full form. And also this time, if there's anything else to be added as we go. Yes.
Is there any, well, I'm not sure what the scope is for these reports or statements of intent, but is there any way, given that Western Holdings relies on its subsidiaries, to include the foregoing or the forward-looking forecast for the subsidiaries, so we can get a breakdown of what you expect to perform, not perform, etc. in the statement of intent?
Not in the statement of intent. So the statement of intent is for Western Holdings. It's compliance with the local government act. So we can't put it there. It's not to say we can't give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can absolutely give it to you. They have their own statement of intent, which include their budgets, and we're happy to provide you with those.
Yes.
But it can't go into this one.
Wow.
It's just the way they work the literal. So this is entirely about Western Holdings. It's the way they work it.
Yeah, it's still in. Yeah, no, it's just in terms of someone wanting to know might be able to go through another report.
They do, yes, absolutely.
But the value for estimated 14.5 million, is there a way of breaking that down based on the different assets that you hold as a balance sheet rather than just putting it there as 14.5 million?
Look at these places. Reports. They're all the council website.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah.
So that figure comes out of last year's.
Yeah.
Just through the chair for councillors, if there's any proposed changes, just channel them through myself and I'll forward them on to the board.
Thank you. Is there anything further on that? No. So can I have a mover and a seconder that we approve the draft Western Holdings Limited 2023 to 2026 statement of intent, noting amendments and additions to be added before we approve the final SOI. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Casson? Councillor Reardon? Sorry.
Trying to get it in the first time.
You've got to be confident.
Everybody in favour of that? Thank you, Kerry. Right, thank you very much, everybody, for that. That's excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Right, next on the agenda is the Hokitika Wastewater Upgrade Project, and we have John Strange here from Stantec again to update us and bring everybody up to speed on where we are with that. So thank you, John, for joining us today. And I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors, staff. Pleasure of giving you a presentation on the Hokitika Wastewater Upgrade Project slideshow that I'll talk to has been presented to you. I guess you'll be able to read it. I'll work through it, ask questions on the way, ask questions at the end. We've got a next steps at the end to summarise where things go from here. And we've just 2 weeks ago had a meeting with the Oversight Subcommittee where the request was to cover school here. So a number of members here were present at that, along with our iwi reps. So it is a pleasure to present this now to give you an update right off the press, as it were. There's an agenda page there which I'll just work through with the slides, giving you an intro, some overview of the work to date, the processes that are used for assessment of options, the elements that make up a wastewater scheme, how they've been assessed and taken forward, creating long lists, short lists to where we are now. And yeah, let's just jump into it. So next slide, thanks, Susie. Shall I read through these? What is the desired way to work through? Shall I pick the eyes out of it, which I've already done with highlight? What is the best way for this?
Has everybody had a good read of your report?
Given that some of the members
Highlights.
Well, given that, as I say, some here are on the Oversight Subcommittee. So setting the tone, so setting the scene, the resource consent for the current plant discharge expires on April 26. Regional Council has indicated that the existing discharge won't meet current receiving environment standards, i.e. a new treatment or new consents will be required for new treatment. And Council is investigating wastewater treatment options and disposal options for Hokitika. In 2019, Western Milk offered for Western District to join in with what was a proposed outfall project then. It was consulted with the community, options presented, and Western agreed to go forward with the ocean outfall option. That didn't proceed following projected cost increases, and Western went back to the community, the council went back to the community annual planning process with two options. And the community's preference was for option 2 there, which was investigate alternatives, and that was adopted following that draft plan process. Following that, Council was committed to working in partnership with Poutamaki Tahu to develop a solution that's sensitive to cultural and environmental concerns and meets the needs of the community. There was a hui at the Arohura Marae where a proposed pathway was presented and agreed to, and at that the formation of an oversight subcommittee was presented and agreed to. That then resulted in the oversight subcommittee, formal subcommittee of council being formed, resolved within this week, and there's 4 reps each from Poutamaki Tahu and council on that. Next slide, thank you, Susie, is the overview of work to date. The coloured strip along the centre is the pathway that was proposed pathway that was presented to the hui marae and agreed to. We've added in there for this meeting and for for this meeting an indicative timeline, being the dark coloured boxes, showing, as was nicely reported in today's paper, program being started 2024 and identify preferred options. That's added on the 12 months from here. Submit discharge consent applications late 24. For this meeting, and then we've got detailed indicative timeline showing there is an indicative point early 25 and a construction date in there. The key date in relation to the existing consent expiring of April 26 is application date for new discharge consents need to be 6 months before the expiry of the existing. So that's October 25. So that's a key RMA timeframe. And we've made a note there regarding the Natural Built Environment Act coming, and so there may be some changes or likely to be changes around processes and timelines for consents, but we currently assume the current situation will apply through a transitional period. Next two slides are the overview of work to date. So the introduction has been how we got to the start of, say, the project proper. So going down through those bullets, a project, the oversight subcommittee came together, and a project outcome statement and process, partner stakeholder involvement was all worked through and agreed to. Then a problems and benefits of investment workshop held with a working group, and so we've got our the oversight subcommittee, and beneath that the engine room of the work at current is the working group being 4 EB reps, same reps that are the same people who are on the oversight subcommittee, plus council staff and technical persons from Stantec. That process was in that problems and benefits work was endorsed by the oversight subcommittee, and then there was a number of workshops following that to work through technical elements of the project and a strategic case report which the oversight subcommittee and I believe the council may have been provided previously, but we can check on that perhaps. That's a good summary document of all the work that's gone to that point, and then including endorsement by the oversight subcommittee of an options assessment framework. So that's again getting everything underway and then sorting out how the process will be for assessment. The next sheet, which is the options development, thank you, sets out the process that's been followed, which is identify elements being treatment types, treatment plant locations, receiving environment options, etc. So they will work through with working group plus representatives from regional council, DOC, and community public health. There's been Silver Fern Farms conversation started in late November, late 21, and that's ongoing. That's with council staff and ourselves, and yeah, we'll come to that further through. Western Milk Products have received a swathe of information on their current platform and the process around that to feed into the options consideration process. So that's been very supportive. Scheme elements, we carried out a fatal flaw assessment to rule out certain elements with the project working group. There's been a couple of site visits to the Greymouth biological tripling filter wastewater plant by the project working group and the subcommittee. Long list of schemes was compiled from all the elements that make up a plant, and then the process of assessing those got underway. And that's culminated in the shortlist that is presented at the end of this presentation, which was presented to the oversight subcommittee from the working group and then endorsed by the oversight subcommittee a couple of weeks ago. Next slides, there's visuals. This first one gives an overview of what we refer to as the sieving approach to options assessment. The coloured part of the diagram is a sort of a standard sieving approach that brings you down to an RMA terms the best practicable solution or option. And on the right, we're using the wording, the descriptors on the right-hand side are the descriptions we're using for the project. The red, we are here, indicates that we are here. And that is at the shortlist phase where we've identified potential wastewater schemes. Next slide, thanks, Susie. This sets out elements that make up a wastewater scheme, as I mentioned earlier. So across the three columns, receiving environment options for the treated wastewater, plant location and potential treatment options, and wastewater inputs management options. So for the receiving environment, we've made lists here which hopefully help this group and any wider readers of this document understand some of this. So ocean, river, land, groundwater, reuse and combinations of above is effectively the long list of elements that were first looked at. The treatment plant location, the approach taken was to start from where the existing ponds treatment plant is and then move away from that and out. So that was the process that was followed. For treatment options, for key treatment processes were listed there, ponds being equivalent to what's there now. Biological trickling fields have been similar to Greymouth plant and elsewhere in the country. Conventional secondary treatment, Westport is a good equivalent of that, and membrane, which is another advanced technology. Used a lot of water treatment, including here. And then for wastewater inputs management.
Good on, John.
Yeah.
Just when you talked about the existing ponds,
yes,
and you talked about moving away from there, can you just explain that a bit more?
I'll do that on the next slide.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's a visual that helps with that mental process.
Thank you.
So when I'm doing this, it'll work in a minute. For the wastewater inputs, we identified or separated out Silver Fern Farms inputs being a very large waste contributor, and the remainder of the wastewater network inputs, which include other trade waste, septic, stock truck, camper van, water demand management, infiltration and inflow reduction. So of the long list of elements, there was a fatal flaw assessment carried out, and then that culled out a large number, and from that we identified the elements to take forward. So we flick over the base scheme elements taken forward. So Paul, this is the slide that sort of shows, so first of all, if we look at receiving environment options, the ones that were taken forward were ocean, being either Western Milk Products existing outfall or a new Western District outfall. And then for land, it was land in the vicinity of west of the airport. So we're using the airport as a kind of a key general land locator, if you like. So west of the airport, that's between the highway and the airport, east of the airport, Blue Spur, which is further back, Kanieri, and then south side. So they were the general descriptors that were considered through this process. So that was for receiving environment, and then for wastewater treatment plant locations, existing treatment site, west of the airport, east of the airport. The longer list included more, so this was the elements culled down before getting to this point. And then for treatment plant options, the three that came through were ponds, BTF, and conventional, not membrane.
Did you have any further questions, Councillor?
Just on the ponds. So that's still on the mix, you're saying?
Ponds. So it won't be when we get to the end of the presentation, but as elements that were taken forward to make up schemes that were there, created a long list. If you flip to the next slide, please, Susie. This is call it a visual. To show the process that was worked through, starting with taking all the elements that have come through the initial fatal flaw culling process, and then combine them into schemes. That made 153 schemes, which is permutations of the various locations and options. We then went through a comparative assessment of those, because there's lots of things that are kind of similar, That brought us down to 21, which we're calling our long list. And then from that, we did a traffic light assessment. I'll show you some images of that in a moment. Green, orange, red, based on a set of criterion scoring. And from that, that has brought us down to a shortlist. And then that's the shortlist that's been endorsed by the Oversight Subcommittee. The next sheet is the presentation of the shortlist. So on that, the second column, the receiving environment column, shows the two options that have come through for receiving, so ocean or land, west of the airport. So ocean via Western Milks Outfall, or land on that west of the airport zone. Treatment plant sites listed in the next column, and then the base treatment option being biological trickling filter for those options, or conventional for the land discharge options. So it's 11 options being rows across the table. 4 base scheme options. So if we took the top set of rows, which is for those options, base scheme option being discharge to the ocean, treatment plant located at the existing site, it's TP1 we're referring to it as, biological trickling filter, there's 3 sub-rows if you like, and that's based on potential treatment enhancements. Top row is showing cultural enhancement. Second row has UV disinfection added on to the BTF process plus cultural enhancement, and the third one is membrane filtration as an enhancement to the process that's come through the BTF plus cultural enhancement. So that's created 3 sub-options, if you like, to the base scheme that's there. The columns moving to the right-hand side, to the right of the green columns, we've got a column there indicating mana whenua input from the long list. So in the long list, there were 12 criterion of scoring for traffic light: red, green, orange, and for that option, crosses are shown there to indicate mana whenua do not support that item, but did support the ones below. So that's distinctly different to the treatment enhancement columns to the right, which is call it a pick and mix columns that show the various sub-options. This has been worked through, so the short list has been arrived at, assessing the treatment of domestic sewage, not including silver fern farms. So as we've noted at the bottom, step now is to bring in the silver fern farms options process and meld them together, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and work through that with them and with the working group and oversight subcommittee. The conversation with them, as noted earlier, has begun quite some time ago. Any questions?
Yeah, John, just, I know it's early days, but just with these options here, what would be the estimated cost?
This is the best part, because we haven't had, because through this process we don't have to think about cost yet. That comes next.
Okay,
So,
so you wouldn't have any idea what the cost of these proposals would be compared to the existing ponds?
Oh yes.
Okay,
yeah.
What would that be?
Well, cost is not in it yet.
Any idea?
Well, it's always going to be more expensive than having a couple of ponds.
Roughly?
I'm not going to give numbers here.
I think
I'm not the right forum. The reason for that cost doesn't come into the equation through the assessment process to date is to ensure that cost doesn't rule out best practicable option, because you don't want to stifle the process of consideration of options by ruling things out early due to cost.
Sure, but it's got to be affordable.
Correct? Yes. Yeah, and that's one of, so inside the business case document, those aspects of affordability, etc., are all locked in there. So we haven't got it here today in this presentation. The assessment criteria include project objectives set early on, 4 wellbeings set out in the Local Government Act, key measurables in terms of public health, etc., and then cost and technical aspects of the items that come in now for assessment as part of the, if you go back to that slide, about slide 4, I think it is. Sorry, 6, 7, oh, there's a lot of pages there. 8, slide 8, which is the sieving approach. It's when we get down to the MCA, the multi-criteria assessment, the cost comes up. So that's, once we've done detailed investigations that come and understand the land, understand the ocean and the options there, and cost that out, that all becomes part of that assessment.
No, I understand that. I mean, it's really good to get some understanding of what we're working on, though, in terms of affordability.
Council have a, sorry, you go.
Through your worship, we did have that, of course, towards the start of the project. And as John says, best not to go into that today, but whilst the course it has to be affordable, it also has to be legal. And what we have there now, they've already signalled, won't be consented when that consent expires. So.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get a dollar on it, so the ratepayer know what they're getting into.
Yeah, well, we have signalled.
Council signalled that.
Yes.
Long-term planning process.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
There are figures.
Like is it 2 million or 20 million?
20 million, but
I think if I can, I think we've all been aware of what the projected scale of this is and where that's going to roughly sit. But at this stage, we're still working through the processes to take out to the public, to let them know what is going to be put in place, and then come with that will be the costing and so forth, and then from there we can work out.
No, that's fine.
But it's very hard to put a scope and a scale together if you're bound by that. You've got to make sure it's going to serve the purpose on a long-term aspect.
Sure. Yeah.
So once all that information's put together, then they can start looking at the final details to costing and have something to take out.
Sometimes I think we sort of go.
I mean, at this stage, just to a figurative out there is a really risky thing to do.
Well, I mean to say it's.
You're not talking peanuts.
That's what the ratepayer needs to know.
Well, yes.
I mean, you could come up with any model that might be Rolls-Royce, Bigger, Better, whatever, right? And put a price tag on all the different options we've got, and that'll be on us to decide what we have the ability or desire to pay for within the RMA requirements for this scheme. Right. So, as you say, there is no dollar value at the moment because that would limit the scope of looking at all the possible options.
Yeah. Under the RMA, there's a requirement to look at a full options range.
Yeah.
And if the options assessment doesn't cover that, you run the risk of being tripped up through the consenting process.
Yeah.
So
this is really just bringing us the menu, but it doesn't apply just by the ribeye, the crayfish, or anything like that. There'll be a list of options on the
this and my presenting this is not my presenting Stantec's opinions. This is the work of the oversight subcommittee providing the governance, and the working group being the engine room providing the input to all these processes. Yeah.
For me, it wishes I can provide the number that we have in our LTP, which is already well publicised. The number we have there is just $12.3 million for the wastewater treatment plant project.
Thank you.
And that's before we know the final cost of the future design. It's current.
And as the CEO has just said, that figure has been out there. And it's been reported on before too.
Thank you.
So we were on sheet 12 there, Susie, which was the shortlist. The next sheet sort of shows call it a components that make up those 11 to sort of presented in a different way so that it's perhaps more understandable. And that is that, so the 11 options, the next step is to go forward and investigate those in detail to understand, to better understand the risks and ability of those receiving environments and costings and treatment requirements. So there's a land and a sea option, a land and an ocean option there. There's 2 treatment types. There's 3 treatment enhancements, and there is 3 treatment plant sites. Just make a comment there. The working group has, through our iwi reps, has gone back to mana whenua to seek comment and support, and there was strong desire from mana whenua to have a cultural enhancement element associated with that, which is a feature that's exists at an existing plant in Hastings. That was an example used for the Greymouth project, and information on that's been provided to this project as well. Next slide is next steps. So next steps, Western Milk Products is to reopen discussion regarding the possible use of their ocean outfall. So Simon is leading that. Simon, do you want to speak to that?
No, so I can. We have a relationship already, obviously, previously to previous discussions. There was a lot of work done at that stage. I've already reached out to Western Milk to engage and have a catch up regarding next steps with them as well. Thank you. Just to remind councillors that Western Milk are very open to the idea of Western District Council linking into their outfall. They've already installed a connection point to the discharge. So obviously that is obviously dependent on us getting successful resource consent.
Through your worship, if I could just clarify that this is a very different proposal, of course, of using the Western Milk outfall, sea outfall, than the one that was presented about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, the council was proposing to put the putrid water from the oxidation ponds into the pond. Yes, and barrel it out to sea, and that's when the proverbial hit the fan, and we're now on this path, and so this would be the treated water that's come out of the whatever that wastewater system will be, will go into potentially go into the seafall outfall.
Fully, obviously, that requires us to be fully consented as well. So there's another process that we will apply to that.
But 2 completely different processes.
Just could you just explain a bit more, Paul, about that place?
So previously, the council had proposed to take the putrid water from the current process from the oxidation pond that spills onto the beach, and put that into the ocean outfall pipe.
Yeah,
that's not happening, of course.
That's right.
Yeah, trapped on that, and we've embarked on a journey of finding the best treatment solution, alternative to oxidation ponds, which is old school, not even technology. But even with the treatment plant, there's still a water process at the end of it, but it's gone through treatment, and so that water then will go potentially into the ocean outfall. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
yes.
just understanding sake, I understand the relationship with some milk as a potential partner for, utilise that infrastructure. Silver Fern Farms, I appreciate it's also got large, water discharge. Is that because you've got the existing arrangements that we have with taking the water to the station ponds?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
When the
because they'll need somewhere new to go, obviously.
Their options hinge heavily around what council's options are.
Right.
When the current ponds treatment system was put in place in 1970, it was built and sized, and it states on the drawings that it was for the township, the hospital, and the meat works.
Right.
So it was actually built originally for those three and sized for. They're a large contributor, which is why they are a special stakeholder as opposed to other trade waste discharges being shops and restaurants and those kind of things.
Because will the council end up being the intermediary if you take sort of plant water for them, obviously going through some milk as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that preferable to a direct partnership between Silver Fern Farms and Western Milk, or am I jumping the gun?
Simon,
Without speaking on behalf of Western Milk, they only want to deal with district council.
Okay.
Potentially, through worship, potentially Silver Fern Farms might have their own treatment.
That's right now, there's not, well, they do currently have treatment prior to them coming to the ponds. So options that go forward are additional treatment on site or additional treatment at a district council site, or all those options, and none of those. So that process is starting right now to have those conversations with Silver Fern.
So we've spent probably 18 months in and out with Silver Fern Farms and pre-sensitising where we're going. So they're fully aware where we are right now. We met with them 2 weeks ago, because obviously we knew this was going to be a public meeting and we wanted it upfront with them to exactly where we are. So they are very comfortable where we are and they're looking at their options as well.
Some of the conversation that's been had is that as we start to work through the options with them, is that in Hastings, so Silver Fern has a plant in Hastings, and they are one of multiple that contribute to the trade waste scheme. It comes down beside the Hastings plant, goes through a money screen and goes out and joins the outfall, which is council's outfall. In Timaru, Silver Fern are just going through the consenting process of reconsenting of their treatment discharge, and that's them standalone because they are at a spot south of the community on their own head. So yeah, they've got involvement in different ways around the country.
This is a little bit unique. It's a private company's discharge, which most of the discharges around we find are council owned.
In terms of the actual pipe, that's now our option.
Yes. Obviously, all the consenting, etc., will be based on feeding into the discharge chamber rather than a discharge out of the pipe. But there'll be consenting requirements, obviously, out there as well.
So right at this point, it's the start of the investigation of the shortlists, and going forward now that we've got a shortlist, it makes sense to bring the Silver Fern Farm conversation in. Prior to that, it was a long list, and it will just become an even longer list. We've got a short list that'll get some processing of the Silver Fern Farms options, bring those to the shortlist to create schemes, and then work through the investigations. And then the multi-criteria assessment in nominally 12 months, we'll work through that and identify a preferred option.
I just ask through the chair, the marine science perspective, how has that been?
So going forward, detailed investigations, that's the process starting now. So we know that Western Milk Products, as part of their consenting, has done certain works, and as the process now starts for investigations, that will include ocean outfall studies or review of studies and look at it in relation to this.
DOC, I presume, will be an affected party under the resource consent process or not?
Yeah, so and they've been involved as a stakeholder early on. It's,
we're very much focused on ensuring all affected parties are part of the solution, not a retrospective thought. So as the next stage talks in terms of communication engagement process, obviously we already partnered up with iwi, but obviously there's other stakeholders with iwi. Do you want to carry on?
Yeah, sure. So the third bullet point there on this next step slide is communication engagement process. So there'll be an update now of communication engagements plan and work through continuing engagement with every partner, statutory authorities being Regional Council, Community Public Health and DOC.
Can I just touch on every public?
Yes.
We're quite keen to talk to all the Runanga as a one entity, tell us where we're at. Emma's made a very good point that she wants everyone else to know where they're at as well. So we'll be booking something in the near future for a bit of a hooey up at the Marae.
Yeah.
Simon. Third on there was Water Reform Entity D. And DIA should be on this list too, and currently funding other work.
Just to highlight, obviously, with the water reform, we won't see the end of this project. Stantec will, I hope. So the transfer of assets and inclusion in future projects is a requirement of the Three Waters reform, including validating the ongoing capital component of it.
Next on the list items, and these are items, if you like, in our comms plan. Interested parties being those who've submitted to the consenting processes along to annual plan processes, and community representation groups, the wider community and other key stakeholders. So comms plan, an updated comms plan, given where we are now, will be prepared and endorsed by the Oversight Subcommittee and then roll that out. There's already communication to the wider public today through newspaper and through the presentations that are uploaded on the meeting site. Next key step is the detailed investigations of the shortlisted silver fern farm options, including the review options. And nominally 12 months from now, and part of that 12 months is to allow any studies that involve a full yearly cycle of weather, whether that's ocean related or groundwater related. So multi-criteria analysis of those shortlisted schemes, and then a decision-making process at the end of that. So the table in the spreadsheet doesn't make the decision, it just brings all the information to enable the decision to be made. And outcome of that being identification of a preferred wastewater scheme. And on the journey plan on the early slide, you can see where that is, and that's 12 months from now. There's nothing written on the next sheet, which is quite nice. Obviously, there's no questions.
Sure, I gave John 20 minutes for the session. So you've got to make it very short and concise. And
then you see 30.
And then our new councillors will be very interested. So thank you for that.
Any questions?
Just not so much a question, more an observation. I think interesting listening to the conversation around, when we dove into the price. We should be thinking bigger than that. We should be thinking long term. We should be thinking the next generation. They shouldn't have to go through this. So, whilst the prices, we need to understand it. I don't think we should get hung up on it. I know it's going to go down like a cup of cold stick with ratepayers, but we got to think longer, and we've got to think broader. That's my view, and not get hung up on the price.
Just through the chair. Thank you, Francois. The nuance we have here is that any debt we have against Three Water assets actually gets transferred as well. So I don't think we may not be at a point where we have a preferred list by the time we do the transfer, but I definitely will know significant costs. So that's the challenge. So I think there's a dilemma here. If Three Waters doesn't go through, we've gone for a gold plated standard. That's the cost the ratepayers will have to pay.
Well, I intercept you there. If you've gone for a gold plated approach, it's because a decision's been made by someone later on. It's not. That's right. This process doesn't give you a gold plated outcome. It's not the intention. Assessment of full wellbeings for under the Local Government Act looks at affordability, looks at the environment, the social interactions, cultural. So there is a good mix of assessment and cost does come in with it. Nice. Okay, thank you.
Is there anything further for John?
I just want, not so much John, just Simon, I just want to get this clear. It's just a question, like the Western Ratepayer pays for this and then Three Waters government take over ownership. Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Okay.
The new entity.
Yeah, take it over.
Yep.
It's also possible that if the new entity comes in, the community and council group have gone through this process, identified a preferred option, and the entity pays for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I was going to say we're already talking to NTD about this is what we're doing. We've given them some outline costs because they're at the moment planning for what their investment strategy is moving forwards. So that what they have said to us is that they want to continue on with projects that are already on track. Because it's not helpful, and to be honest, it wouldn't be at all. I mean, when the resource consent runs out for this, if it's not in the ground, it's a problem. So they need to pick up what we're doing. But if Three Waters hits the time frame that it is at the minute, the construction phase of this would not be something that we do.
Well, Three Waters, I might add, Worship, isn't a foregone conclusion, of course, because the election's not a foregone conclusion. I'll just leave it there. Three Waters. But regardless, though, the whatever model we end up with, it's going to be a substantial cost, and it's the biggest capital cost that this council will face. But it future-proofs the council and the community years to come. And what's there now is unacceptable, and it has to be addressed. And bravo to the council for taking that step and getting in before we were forced to do it. Because as sure as night follows day, we were going to be forced to have a new process. And to leave behind the oxidation ponds. So I congratulate the council, and the Stantec has done a great job in driving this through in a really methodical process. We're maybe on that chart, we're maybe a third of the way through, but the big stuff is well in hand. And yeah, in 12 months' time, we'll be ready to roll. And I think it's great kudos to the Oversight Committee and the working group. They've done a great job for a huge project.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, it's great that iwi have allowed that flow going out to the ocean. Thumbs up on that. Really good stuff.
It's an option.
It's an option, yes.
Yeah, but it's still, really good stuff.
Yeah, however, that's a completely different scenario to what we were talking about previously, though. I just want to make that really clear.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
Paul, yeah.
So this is the water that is almost drinkable.
Yeah.
That comes out of the treatment plant. The one where former Grey Mouth did drink it, famously, before they commissioned it.
Before he turned it on. I think one of, when Simon noted before that Emma, who's one of the heavy reps, had requested one of the presentations that was recently given to the Oversight Subcommittee, previously given to the working group, has requested a presentation of that at Mariah, and that's in relation to the process of treatment that is the VTF option that Grey Mouth uses that came from Hastings. So that'll be a nice opportunity for presentation in that forum, and part of this comms plan is to identify other appropriate ways to communicate out to the community what the options are, how the process has got to here, and what the steps are going forward, which I think will be valuable given the conversation that I'm observing here. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, can I have someone please move the second resolve that the West River project update presentation from John Strange at Stanton be received?
Yeah.
Oh, God, all right.
Well, hands up.
Look, we've got to take Patrick for one, please. And
Go down in this.
Thanks very much.
You made it.
Thank you. Right, staff reports, if we can move on, please. We're a little bit behind time, but staff reports, if we can have the finance report, please. Thank you, ladies.
Afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. Through Your Worship, I present the financial report for January. I'll take it as read, and through Your Worship, I'll accept any questions.
If I may, Helen.
Yes, certainly, Councillor.
Lily, just looking at the budget tracker on here, from a previous meeting, everything was in the green, and we now have 24 projects that are in the red as far as the budget tracker goes. Some are very nominal amounts, and others are larger amounts or weren't expected to be costs in this year. Is there any general comment on that, or are there all line by line?
This is with regards to the actual capital projects right at the very end of the report. Yep. Okay, so most of these, other than what is written here, I would have to defer to Your Worship. Scott?
Okay. Perhaps I can pick it up on Scott's part. So we meet monthly as a council, and particularly district assets, to track our progress on projects. There's obviously a lot more detail that goes into those sessions than we are sharing with council. Just to talk about the swimming pool in particular, as you recall, we got the additional $1.45 million costs. We're currently discussing pricing with the contractor, and they have indicated an upside, unfortunately, with regards to inflation and also supply chain costs. So waiting for that tender price revision to come back before we come back to council. Hopefully I'll come back to council in March with that update. And yes.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Kirsten?
Yeah, I just vaguely, we've just gone from what I believed was pretty much all of them were in the green in previous meetings or previous reports to 24. Not all of them are large amounts, but it sticks out to me anyway, so I was raising the question.
Through the chair as well. I think this assumes that all projects are going to be budgeted to be completed in this year, but that inevitably isn't going to be realistic, so they carry over.
Right.
So although we say put a project in a year, it's not realistic to say that we're going to be able to complete all these projects into the year.
Can I just get a bit of clarification on a couple of these things that are in the capital projects report? Responsible camping costs. What is that?
Oh, so that's a carryover from TIF funding we received last season. So that's 78,000. I remember.
Page 68.
Yeah, 68,000.
No, page 68.
Page 68.
Sorry.
Page 68. So it's not the same as
No,
I think it's 68.
no, it's not. No, it's not 68. No, it's not 68, sorry. Where's it gone?
Potentially, are you referring to something that's in the statement of comprehensive revenue and expenditure notes?
Well, that might have come from in there. I didn't put a heading over it. Sorry. Right, which I normally do. It wasn't sure what the responsible camping costs were all related to. So
yes, it's under other expenses on page 62. So this year we have received a grant which we had not budgeted for responsible camping. So we have incurred 58,000 in costs, but this is covered under the grant. So the 58,000 is not budgeted for at all, cost, but nor was the revenue offset.
So we had made an application through Tourism Infrastructure Fund for the new summer for freedom of responsible camping, which was a late application late last year. And we were surprisingly very successful, $345,000 of cost funding for that project. Some of that, there's quite criteria that come with that, and only half of that could be drawn down this season, this financial year. The rest will be drawn down in the next financial year.
So as far as when you say a project, can we get the information on what that project is and what this?
Yeah, no problem.
Because that's something that's new to most of us is the responsible camping program. And because we've got freedom camping issues out in the wider community, I think we need to, as a council, get ourselves up to speed with what this is, and we can actually start addressing some of the issues that have been brought to our notice. It's very hard to address the issues if we don't understand the background of what we're enforcing.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Just another couple of things I just want to get my head around. The Hannah's Clearing Fire Station upgrade. Well, that is on page 68. Sorry.
Yes, it is.
So, why are we upgrading the fire station? And aren't they owned by Fence? Or do we own this one? We own this one. We own the building and the land. Right, okay. And we pay all the costs on that. Insurance rates. Right. Okay. And then there's Harry House on page 15. No, I think that's 71 actually, sorry. What is that, Harry House?
We own that as well.
What, a house?
Yes, and we own one in Fox as well, which I think were the old nursing
I believe
houses.
so.
And are they rented?
They are rented. They're managed by Destination Westland on our behalf. As
Are they pensioner units or are they just?
No, they're nursing homes, houses for supporting.
I think they come from council days or something. The County Road houses, weekend houses or something. Before that,
I don't know the history of them, sorry, but I know that they're managed by Destination Westland and rented out accordingly.
One in Harry's got a farm with
So they take the rent, but we pay for the maintenance on them.
Yeah, they just manage the house on our behalf.
We pay for the capital costs.
So what do you mean?
Any major upgrade.
So it doesn't include maintenance.
It doesn't include maintenance.
It is maintenance. So
Well, this is capital you're talking about there, so that's, I'm not exactly sure what that component actually is.
Well, it's just got plumbing work and house insulation, that's maintenance, isn't it?
It's under capital vessels, this is the capital costs.
Right, and we have to pay for that if we don't get the rent from that.
Because we own it.
Yeah.
And because Destination Westland's managing.
Correct.
It is a rental.
I guess the Destination Westland rented off the council or how does it know?
They're getting pretty good money for management, aren't they? They're getting all the rent just for management.
They get the management, yeah, they charge, it's under the same management fee for pension housing, managing housing facilities.
So they're charging a management fee plus getting the rent as well.
Yes.
And they don't transfer any of that the rental to us?
No. But they do pay for the maintenance, not capital.
Okay.
And they pay the rates as well.
Oh, they do? Yeah, okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, and just one more question from me, sorry, I just feel like I'm hovering a wee bit there, but the library and museum, under the library and museum, the digital interactive package, which I think is sitting at, I think it's about 500,000, is it? Who is that, is that being funded or is that in our LTP? Yes, I mean, this is, I guess some of this is wash over from what we've
Previous council's decisions.
In the LTP is the work for the fit out, and we have separated out that fit out in the annual plan between the digital and other work such as shelving, but it's the total is the original from the LTP.
For councillors, so this obviously won't be executed until council has worked through with the museum director in terms of what the future fit out will be and cost for them.
Thank you. That's all for me. Does anybody else got any other questions?
Unrelated to Linley's stuff, but back to the Fox and Harry houses, I assume that's going to come up in the workshop next week around council owned assets and buildings and things. So
we're only talking next week about these 3 buildings.
Right.
There's a larger piece of work around council assets and land primarily in terms of what is the future of each land parcel. We have a lot of land that sits idle, doesn't get a return. A lot of land that sits as a reserve that actually is not utilised as a reserve. So there's quite a bit of work in terms of cleaning up the history of 150 years of council's acquisitions and inheritance, etc.
Sounds like there's a few buildings to be added to that list too. In terms of
it's
a conversation.
Yeah, and that's part of what we're going to be looking into as we go down the track of what we've got to tidy up, and also I'm sure we've got MOUs with a lot of these things as well between the parties and stuff. So, just getting back to Linley's report, does anybody have anything further for Linley? Any further questions? Up there? No. Thank you, Linley, very much for that. Can I please have a mover and seconder to accept the financial reports for 31st of January? Westland Creative Community Committee, please. Oh, hang on, just 1 minute, please. We've done 2 hours, and there is a ruling that you need to get up and stretch your legs. So we need to resolve to continue, or to resolve to have a quick 5-10 minute break. What is the opinion of?
Is this a nice report?
No.
No.
We've got the creative community, then we have the Resource Management Act Commissioner, triennial agreement, Council of Tribal Organisations review the scope, and then we go into.
This would have a 10-minute recess.
Yeah, right. Do we need to move? Can somebody move a second that, please? Thank you. Thank you.
There was an application to go out for nominees, and these are the nominees that come back in. Just to say, this primary activity of the committee is to allocate the fund that comes from the Creative Communities scheme. It's about $20,000. So I'll take the rest of the report as read, Worship, and we can take questions.
Any questions?
Through your worship. So is there only one returning member from the previous committee?
Yes, I think so.
It looks like it. We have the answer to that. Sorry.
I think
Councillor
Neil's should probably be our time spent.
Yeah, no, I think it's only Paul.
And who are the councillors on it?
Myself.
Riley and
The only me. You.
Oh, I'll have to get the book and have a look.
oh, it is me. I'm either on the sports fund or the creative community, but I'm off another one.
I thought it was.
Yeah. No, sorry, it's the sport one I'm not on.
We are live stream, guys.
So I'm still on.
Raise that to the record.
Shall I just go back?
Rewind.
You will just go over that one.
Any further questions?
Right, is everybody happy with
Chair.
that? Yes, sorry.
Just a general query. Do these board members get any remuneration for the work they do?
No, it's committee.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Anything further?
It's a lot of work for not a lot of.
Yes, it is.
Really.
It is. It's community spirit and the good of community spirit.
Mm.
I guess
It's only 2 meetings a year. So it's
Right, so if everybody's happy with that, can I remove and receive the please and resolve that the report be received? Councillor Beard.
Come on, Betsy.
And Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, that was just me dropping my thing.
I know, but you seconded that one. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Right, we'll move straight on to the next report, which is the nomination of Resource Management Act Commissioner to represent Western District Council. Thanks, Simon.
Yes, so councillors, you'll recall that in December we actually had a nomination of Peter Bridington. Fair to say that once we made that nomination and the nominations from other councils, the chair of the joint committee thought it'd be prudent to get a legal opinion, mainly because there's heavy involvement in the drafting of the original draft TTPP plan. Prior to nominating Edith at the committee, we withdrew her application, knowing that the legal opinion would see that she would be challenged through the whole process. So the onus was for us to come up with another nominee, myself, 2 joint committee members being Helen Nash and Ashley Kisson, interview, and Tiara Cook as our planning representative from Gut staff. Interview 2 candidates and made a selection of Paul Rogers as the preferred nominee to take forward. I'm happy to take any questions. You'll see his CV added, very experienced, has chairing capability as well, so potentially could be a good deputy chair if required for the committee. Open up for questions.
A comment through worship, I think is an excellent choice. I think the CV speaks for itself, and we're really lucky to get him. It's a pity his name wasn't put forward, to be honest, for the chair of the panel, but
just to highlight too that the other person that we interviewed would make also a very excellent commissioner on the hearing panel as well. So, unfortunately, we didn't take it forward, but I think as a backstop, there's potential.
His credentials are exceptionally good. He covers a very diverse field of what he offers us as far as representing us
at the table. So
yeah,
we're very fortunate.
And he knows the value of, dare I say it, mining to the West Coast community.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
And that's going to be a major when it comes to the hearings.
And the other thing that was very pleasing to us was where, if he lacked any knowledge, he was very eager to get out there and bring himself up to speed if there was anything missing. So he was, yeah, it was very impressive.
Just through the chair, I mean, it's a very good CV. Or just whereabouts is he based?
Sorry. I think he's Nelson based.
Yes.
I didn't see it on the CV and stuff.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah,
Christchurch. And the other one's Nelson based.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Does anybody have anything further to ask or discuss on this?
Just in terms of process, now we'll take our nomination forward to the joint committee meeting, which is on 28th of February. It's at that meeting where the joint committee will endorse our nominee.
So the purposes, Simon has said, of this report is for us to be able to endorse that we put forward Paul Rogers to be nominated as the commissioner to represent us. So we're ready to want to get somebody to move and second and seek council's approval on this going forward.
Yeah,
thank you, Councillor Ewing. Thank you. All in favour to accepting that?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Simon, for that. Yes, we were very, very fortunate, Paul, with that strong applicants that we had. It's quite breathtaking, actually. Right, moving right on to the 22-25 to 2020, sorry, 2022 to 2025 West Coast Training Agreement. Simon, if you could speak to this, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As part of each new triennium, there's a requirement from the Local Government Act that the councils within the region join on common purpose. And the way they do it is through a triennium agreement. The agreement that you see here in draft has been endorsed by the Mayors and Chairs Forum, and each council is bringing it back for councillors to consider as adopting. Once council endorse it, the mayor will be able to sign it along with the other mayors within the region. Happy to take any questions on it. Bearing in mind this is a Mayors and Chairs document, training agreement in terms of how the various councils interrelate with each other.
Were there any changes from the previous training? Was it
There have
one?
been some minor updates, but not a lot.
Then they don't have any real great effect on, adverse effect on us.
I think if we just call, there's a bit more focus around supporting the WDC strategy, DWC strategy, obviously, and obviously increasing the support around CDM, civil defence.
Through your worship, so it will escape me. The support for the DWC economic strategy to whānau, is it?
It's this 2050 strategy that's been developed through the previous workshop from DWC. So the Mayors and Chairs saw it an opportunity time to acknowledge that and support the process of going through the strategy.
Okay, that's interesting because the strategy itself doesn't involve local government at all.
No, but it's about the economic well-being of the region.
Yes, it is. But we had there were issues we had with the one of those focus groups, which I was on, the energy one, and it had it lost its way, shall we say? And I asked at the time about when does this go to the Mayors and Chairs, and was pretty well surprised that it doesn't. It
There is a strategy meeting happening 7th of March.
Yeah, that's a different forum. That's bringing everyone together, all local, councils and local government together. But the various strategies that fall within the overall 2050 strategy, they're all exclusive of local government input.
Just talks about it supporting or in collaboration with the DWC. So
yeah, what I'm trying to drive at, Your Worship, is that I think it should be a two-way street, and I think that DWC, with their strategy and the implementation of, which they're only starting the implementation, going through each of these facets of the overall Te Whanaketanga strategy, need to involve the mayors and chairs.
Mayors and chairs were at the original workshops.
Yes, but they're not. Sorry, Your Worship, but the mayors and chairs aren't seeing the final, the draft documents before they're finalised, and there's more to come. And
I think the last training of the council endorsed the strategy as well, signed off the strategy on behalf of the West Coast.
Yes, but this is the implementation I'm talking about.
The details, so each strategy obviously is broken up into various work groups and make it faster. So the energy one doesn't have a local representative on it.
Oh.
I think that is seen as we're not energy, part of the energy business. So they focus on specialists around energy, etc.
The
energy users.
Yes, the answer that I got was that local government didn't have a role in this at all. In the end to receive.
No, there are components where, once again, the direction of the strategy can be supported or not through local government.
You see, the next one that's underway at the moment is through the Tahitanga Ki Te Uru, the West Coast Alliance, and that is doing the green economy, basically, component of strategy. So it's going to detail a lot of future direction in that space. But there's no local government input to that. That is Department of Conservation, Development West Coast, Regional Council. Regional Council is there, big pardon, Heather Maven and iwi. And so that's just two. That's the energy and the green economy, and there are more components to come. And as I say, I'd like to see a two-way street where it's come back to mayors and chairs, at least. But that's just a comment. I'm comfortable with it.
With it not coming back to mayors and chairs.
It's not coming that the mayors really didn't know. And when we had the issues with the energy one, they didn't know. They didn't know what was coming up, and it could easily have gone through, and they just didn't know.
Yeah. That's something we can perhaps follow up on. It's that link of information, that transfer of information, keeping everybody in this day and age. We all need to be up on the same page. What's happening?
I think they learned from that exercise.
Yes, they did. I think PwC is a standing item on the mayors and chairs. Obviously, if there's any lack of clear direction in terms of engagement, definitely needs to be highlighted. I think the opportunity is also at the next workshop is to highlight it again.
So, yeah. We'll follow that through. Thank you, Paul. Has anybody got anything further for Simon on that? What? No. Right, so can I have someone please move that we report we received, and that we adopt the 2022-2025 West Coast Training Agreement and endorse my signing of the agreement on behalf of Western District Council. Thank you, Councillor Casson, Councillor Neal. And you will fix my signature there. Right, now we move on to the next item, which is Council Controlled Organisations Review, Scope and Services. So Leslie, your report, please.
Through your worship, this report is on the Council Controlled Organisation Review, Scope and Services document. I'll take the report as read and answer any questions.
Yes, sorry.
Chair, Leslie, how do we propose to pay for it?
Yeah, so it is on budgeted spend, so we would be using general reserve. What we could potentially do is if we have any budget left over from any consultants fees that within the whole of the organisation at the end of the year, that will be covered by this.
Is that likely to happen?
At the moment, my budget is looking right. So, in that, but I'm not saying that it will end up that way.
This is something that's come more from councillors than staff. Do staff see the value in the review?
Well, if you're asking for an opinion, yes, definitely. I think as time changes, I think it's only prudent to actually look at the structures and how they're performing, the community outcomes with value from money. So the two have got to be together. You can't just look at it from a financial perspective, you've got to look at it from the other perspective as well. And I think a review is a good way to do that.
Through the chair, I do think that the community is wanting them as well. I get their feedback quite a lot.
I mean, it does come at a cost and it's not budgeted, so I guess in some ways we could look at perhaps rolling into the next financial year, so it becomes a budgeted figure. But, you know, regardless one way around it, it's whether we're going to proceed at some stage and then how we pay for it, and then also how we report that back out.
As a recommendation, I would say really this first stage you should really be pushing on if you want to do it, because the next stage we can budget for is in our plans. If there are any changes, I mean, you may decide at that point, you know, what any changes. It may be that at the end of this stage you say, you know, I think you're getting value for money with what you're doing. So you might not want to progress to that stage, but if you do, we're going to be having to budget for it so we can deal with it through the long-term plan. And if we leave this to the next budget, then we have to leave the next stage to the long-term plan, and then we end up with a long-term plan amendment.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the thing we've got to be reminded is fitting in with those the end and the long-term plan reviews, that any decisions that come from this fit into that time-wise.
I know it sounds like a lot of money for this, but it isn't really in the grand scheme of things, to be fair, to be realistic.
I agree. Through your worship, the
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that the money factor is a bit of a red herring with this one. I mean, we spent $40,000 on a fence around Cass Square that's come out of nowhere, and so you know this is affordable, and I think we'd be negligent not to do it. We haven't looked at this for about 8 years or so, and as Leslie rightly points out, times change. Is it the right structure? Does it work? Is it value for money? Is there a better way of doing it? For the rest of it, my lips are sealed, but that's enough.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks, Paul. And the other thing is too, as Councillor Burton asked me earlier, so, you know, we've had reviews done before, but they were actually in the makeup of the boards. Primarily when Jane and I were on the council 2-3 years ago, we did that, and that was the board aspect, not anything to do with the performance of the CCOs. Councillor Phelps.
We should, just a couple of things, but again, just on the cost, we're talking 50 or 60,000. Stage one.
No, stage one.
35 to 50. And that's in the context of reviewing asset base with the valuation of what them, something like that. So it's, you know, in the context of that, and as Paul alluded to, compared to other things. The question I have in terms of the scope, is it deliberately vague to cover all manner of sins in the sense that they can broadly look at everything, because anyone that, you know, looked at anything in terms of what I said in the campaigning, I do think there's a lot of things we should look at divesting from. Do we need to be more explicit with that in here, that that's an option, or are we just avoiding saying that for the sake of sensitivity?
That would come out of this review.
Right.
So that would be your option.
Okay.
That would come out of this review.
Okay.
Yeah. It is high level on purpose.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to give them any preconceived suggestions. They have got to look at this from completely
they will look at everything,
yes, they can look at everything. And we will be having conversations with everything.
And we're also very mindful of this, that with viewing the CCOs where we sit with the Three Waters as far as West Roads goes. So yes, they do have to review, but yeah, that'll be managed in probably a lighter aspect as such, because we don't know what the end result's going to be, but we can't afford to not review that aspect of the CCO.
The PwC will be all over that, so and I'll have that discussion as well. But they are advisors to look at them, so they'll be all over that.
Yes,
two questions. First one, phase 2. Any idea on the cost of that, or how deep the scope goes on that?
It depends what the options are, how many you want to explore.
Likely to be more expensive than phase 1, though.
It is, because it will be extremely detailed.
Cool. And back to your response to Riley around, or whoever it came from across here, around the original cost and the chance to go into an existing budget without putting your house on the market. What do you think the chances? Is it a 50-50? Is it bigger than 50-50?
I don't know. We can't. I mean, I do my budgets based on what I know, so contracts and things. So I don't know what it's like at the moment. So potentially we've just not got an invoice that should be in there. Okay. But what we will do is, if we've got a spare budget, we will use that that relates to this area of ratings we discussed yesterday, has to come out at the right rate. So we'll look at just offsetting that if there is any spare budget.
Just through the chair, just to highlight phase 2. Potentially phase 2 is just not consultants but legal, speaking of the avenue that comes to the budget today. So once again, the legal costs obviously increased quite substantially.
It was hope from what is ascertained in this report will give us an indication of whether we need to proceed or what, break it down or whatever. But yeah, it's as Councillor Bede said, you know, we have all campaigned on this, but it's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is because there is probably a civil duty to the ratepayers, that they have a right to know that it's performing to the best it can, the model that we've got.
No, at all.
Through the chair, I think that probably the sale of the sections at Canary probably was the icing on the cake for a lot of ratepayers. They thought, well, what is the thing that's going on that they're not telling us? I mean, I know ratepayers do perceive some things with you.
Yes.
I think as well, I mean, I think we may have discussed this offline, but I think at some stage, council should sort of workshop everyone around this table in terms of philosophically what our values are, where we see an appropriate place for the council and ratepayer to be involved in, not sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Right. Good comment. And we get probably more agreements with that aspect of it. Councillor Burden, have you got anything you
No, all my concerns I think have been alleviated just through Leslie's endorsement. It seems to me like it's something council should actually be doing quite regularly, is reviewing. Well, not quite regularly, but you know,
otherwise you just suffer
it's
under
something
status quo.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other things to review whenever, but this is one that
it's significant.
Just obviously, my team here at council, obviously, I turned up, it was a bit of a mess.
What was it, sorry?
It was a bit of a mess, the CCOs, in terms of how they were operating, how the boards were performing, etc., etc. And I'd just like to highlight that where we are now is a lot further on than 5 years ago. the board that our boards we have in place, to me, there should be no slight on any of their current performance, mainly because they are, to me, you've had 2 days with holdings board that made a massive way forward. You look at the professionalism.
Look at it from a personal view.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But all I'm saying is people read into what they read into it. In terms of one mind, there's a professional at a high level. You also done a lot for free for quite a cheap price.
Yes, it is support of what Simon's saying, and Joanne alluded to that as well, to saying that it was investment that they took over, and Jane and I were on council at the time, and it's the structure is just you can't describe the difference between then to now, and the improvements that have been made. So with that, there's a good structure there, but we still need to look at the underlying. Yep. And see what where it's best placed or whatever going forward. So you have to review these things. It's just natural course of a business. It's reviewing performance and financial efficiency and everything else. I mean, it's how businesses tweak what they do. This is no different. Yes.
I just one comment to to give Joanne credit. She wasn't on as the chair to start with, someone else was, and then when he resigned, she was thrown into that position a wee bit, I felt. And it was like, oh my gosh, is she going to be able to step up to that? And she has, I think. So, yeah, full credit to her.
Yes, true.
Yeah, I'm just, through your worship as well, no, in any way, shape or form for as many individuals, it's just whether the model is fit for purpose. Because you can have the best individual, but if they're operating under a flawed model, you can't achieve good ends through bad means. So, and I think we need to review whether that structure is fit for purpose. So.
And I think also too, bearing in mind that there's a lot of staff involved with this as well within the entities, and it's by no means a slight on them or anything else. This is a structural review into performance as far as effect back to the ratepayer and so forth. With respect, they've all been part of the team that's taken it from where it was to where it is now as well. So we're very mindful of the impact this has on them too.
And they've only operated under structure and followed any incentives of the council, so the successive training and staff at the front as well. So yeah.
Francois and Stephen, have you two got any comments, questions for that?
I'd comment. Yeah, fully support Paul's comments. The terms of reference are very generous. I think the fee involved is probably going to be the best investment this council have made in a long time. I'm sure the results of the first phase will be very enlightening, so look forward to it. It's what the ratepayers that we're asking for, sorry, and we should deliver an outcome for them that they can see exactly where these CCOs fit in the future of our council. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Francois?
Yeah, no, I think we need to do it. Obviously, everyone else has covered all my thoughts as well. The only comment I have is I'm just loath to pay consultants, to be fair, but we need to do it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the results too. And hopefully I'm pleasantly surprised. Cheers.
Thank you. Does anybody have any further comments for questions for Leslie?
Getting consultants is due diligence, it's not passing the buck, is it?
No,
yeah.
No, it's not. They've got the expertise.
Right, so if there's no further questions or comments on that, no. Can I have a move and a second, please, so we can resolve that A, the report be received, and B, that council approved to proceed with the PricewaterhouseCoopers scope of services for the review of the CCO structure and performance against community outcomes. So is everybody happy that we move those two aspects of that, or would you want them separated?
The community outcomes is a very broad phrase. What does that actually mean, or is it a phrase designed to have quite a broad meaning?
So they'll look at the set income tenure that you agreed to, and they'll look at our LCD and what we said our levels of service should be.
Right.
and they will look at the value for money. So they'll look at what we're paying them, are those levels of service being met, or are we paying too much? You know, that kind of thing. So again, the community activities you talked about yesterday in the act, so they will look at that, the act as well, and what's happening with it. Yeah.
So is everybody happy that we move on those two items together, or do you want them separated out? A, that we accept the report, and B, that the council approves to proceed with the scope of services for the review of the structure of the CCOs. There's two items in there. One is receiving the report. We'll split them in half. Can I have someone please move and second that we A, receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Beard, Councillor Neil. And the next one is, can I have a move and a second to please that we proceed with the PricewaterhouseCoopers scope of services for the review of the CCO structure and performance against community outcomes. Councillor Phelps, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder?
Got Stephen's hand up behind you.
Oh, sorry.
He's getting in the minutes as well.
Thank you. All in favour?
Right.
Against? Right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leslie. Right, with that, can I have a resolution to go to the public excluded, please? So can I have a move on a seconder and resolve that we move into public excluded? Councillor Neil, thank you. Somebody second. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. We won't adjourn for 2 minutes unless we have over 10 minutes before as a break. Sorry. We'll keep moving along if everybody's quite happy with that.